union. So we're going to use or. So letter C is P. We have exceeds 3, so we have x greater than 3, or because at least 1, we have y is greater than 3. So using the formula P of A or B, which is equal to P of A plus P of B minus the intersection. Okay, so our A here is x greater than 3. Our B is y is greater than 3. So this is going to be P of x greater than 3 plus P of y greater than 3 minus the intersection x greater than 3 comma y greater than 3. So this is the both or the intersection. Now Px greater than 3, we have an answer of this already. This is letter A. So that's here actually. So in letter A, we calculated or we solved for the marginal PDF of x. So that is f of sub capital letter X of x is equal to e raised to the power of negative x. So if you're going to calculate that, so we have here f of x is equal to e raised to the power of negative x. So this is actually from 3 to infinity because greater than 3. So it's going to be like this, e raised to the power of negative x from 3 to infinity dx, because we have x here. So this is 1 over negative 1 because the coefficient of x here is negative 1 times the whole thing, e raised to the power of negative x from 3 to infinity. So this is going to be negative 1 times e raised to the power of negative infinity, because 1 over negative 1 is negative 1, and minus, we have negative 1 times e raised to the power of 3 here. Okay, so this is negative 3 because we have negative x. So actually we are just replacing our x by infinity. So 1 over negative 1 is negative 1 times e raised to the power of negative x, it becomes negative infinity. And this is always minus in the middle. Okay, times negative 1, 1 over negative 1 times e raised to the power of negative x. So it's going to be negative 3. So this is 0. As I mentioned, e raised to the power of negative infinity, it approaches to 0, or it approaches 0. So negative 1 times 0 is 0. 0 minus a negative here, it becomes plus e raised to the power of negative 3. So that is the answer, e raised to the power of negative 3 for p of x greater than 3. All right, so for the y greater than 3, so we're going to write it here, p of y greater than 3. That is actually from 3 to infinity of our f sub capital letter Y of y dy. This one we calculated already. The answer is here. We have 1 over 1 plus y raised to the power of 2. So that is equal to, we have from 3 to positive infinity, 1 over 1 plus y squared dy. So we have to integrate with respect to y, and we are going to replace the limits to this infinity and 3. So 1 over 1 plus y squared, that is actually from 3 to infinity. We can transfer 1 plus y raised to the power of 2 above. That becomes 1 plus y raised to the power of negative 2 dy. So easily we can integrate. So the formula is n plus 1, so negative 2 plus 1. That is going to be one plus y raised to the power of negative 1 over negative 1. And this is from 3 to positive infinity. So that is negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1 because we have n plus 1. And we have to put here n plus 1 as well. That is negative 1. So if we're going to simplify this, it's going to be negative 1 above over 1 plus y from 3 to positive infinity. Because 1 plus y raised to the power of negative 1, if you're going to transfer this one below, it's going to be positive. So you can put open and close here. There's no need to write 1 as an exponent. And negative 1, we can transfer this one above. So if you're going to replace this by positive infinity and 3, this will become negative 1 over 1 plus positive infinity minus, we have negative 1 over 1 plus 3. That is the value of y. So please take note that we have positive infinity below, negative 1 over 1 plus positive infinity. Try a big number here. For example, 10,000 is going to be 0. Okay, so negative 1 over, for example, 10,000. Okay, so it's going to approach to 0. Okay, so actually there is negative 1 there. Negative times 0, actually it's gonna be 0. So here it approaches 0. And minus minus, this becomes plus 1 over 4. So that is the p of y greater than 3, 1 over 4, or 0.25. So we have already calculated the p of x greater than 3, that is e raised to the power of negative 3. And here we have p of y greater than 3. We use the marginal PDF of y. And we integrate using these limits because it's mentioned greater than 3. So from 3 to infinity. So for easier calculation, we transferred our denominator above. It becomes negative 2 because here is positive. And we use this rule, x n plus 1 over n plus 1. X here is any variable. So here our x is 1 plus y. So it becomes 1 plus y raised to the power of negative 2 plus 1. That becomes negative 1. And n plus 1, negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. So if we simplify this, it becomes negative 1 over 1 plus y. We transfer this one below, negative 1 becomes positive from 3 to infinity. So negative, you can put this one here before the fraction, 1 over 1 plus infinity. This is positive 1 plus infinity. So this is going to be positive value here. So 1 over positive infinity is going to approach 0. So try, for example, 1 over 15,000. So it's going to approach 0. And negative times 0 is 0. And this is minus negative. That becomes plus. 1 plus 3 is 4. So the answer is 1 over 4. The next one is to calculate the intersection between this. We have x greater than 3 and y greater than 3. So I will calculate that one on the next slide. So we can have a space. So here we're going to calculate p of x is greater than 3 and y is greater than 3. So how are we going to calculate this? Of course, we're going to combine. So we're going to have two integrals. First one is from 3 to infinity. That is for the x because greater than 3. And the second one is the same, greater than 3 from 3 to infinity. And we're going to use our f of x comma y, our function dx dy. Our function we have already here, x times e raised to the power of negative x times the quantity of 1 plus y. So this is going to be 3 to infinity, again from 3 to infinity. And here we have our x times e raised to the power of negative x times 1 plus y. We have dy dx. So let's start first with the inner integral. So we're going to start with y. So we calculated this already actually. So what we're going to do, we're going to transfer the x raised to the power of x times e raised to the power of negative x outside. So it's going to be like this. So we can simplify this. This becomes e raised to the power of negative x and then times e raised to the power of negative xy. So we distribute this negative x times 1 is negative x times y, negative xy. And this is dy dx. So let's start with dy. What we're going to do, we will transfer this because this one contains x and here we have x. So we can focus on the inner integral for now, then we're going to use this one later. So let's start with the inner. So we have here 3 to infinity. We're going to put this one outside. And here we have 1 over negative x times the whole thing, e raised to the power of negative x. And then we have y. So basically, that is for this one, the integral of this. So this one, we're going to make it dx. Okay, so the dx here is for the last integral there. So I have already calculated this. We have e raised to the power of negative xy. The integral of that is 1 over negative x times the whole thing. And this one, I put this one outside, x times e raised to the power of negative x. And this one is for the first one, okay, the one on the left. And that's why I put here the dx. So the dy is removed because already I calculated for the integral of these based or with respect to y. So let's have now the limits. So we have x e negative x. We have 1 over negative x e raised to the power of negative xy from 3 to positive infinity. Then we're going to use this one later. Okay, so basically we are slowly moving out. We're going to start from right, going to the left. Okay, so let's replace this with positive infinity. And then we're going to multiply this one later. So we have 1 over negative x times e, negative x, and then we have positive infinity here, minus we have 1 over negative x e, then we have negative x times 3. Okay, so as mentioned, e raised to the power of negative infinity, we have negative x times infinity here. X is any value. This is going to be 0. 0 times 1 over negative x is 0. And this is minus, and this is negative. It becomes plus 1 over x. And then we have e raised to the power of negative 3x. So that is going to be 1 over x times e raised to the power of negative 3x. And this answer we're going to multiply by x times e raised to the power of negative x. So times 1 over x times e raised to the power of negative 3x. So we cancel the x and we multiply e raised to the power of negative x and e raised to the power of negative 3x. That is going to be e raised to the power of negative 4x. So now this answer, we're going to put it here and then dx. Okay, so we are from 3 to positive infinity. The answer is e raised to the power of negative 4x dx. And then we're going to get the integral of this. This is the last step here. Okay, so let me repeat. We have p of x greater than 3 and y greater than 3. So we have intersection. So we have two variables here, unlike the first and the second. Here we have only one variable, y greater than 3, and here we have x greater than 3. Here we have two variables, so we are going to combine the integrals. We have the x from 3 to infinity because greater than 3, and y is the same, 3 to infinity, that is containing two variables, x comma y, dx dy. So we are going to write our function. This is the original function. Here we have x times e raised to the power of negative x times the quantity 1 plus y dy dx. So we can distribute this. This becomes negative x times 1, negative x times y, negative xy. And we can transfer the x times e raised to the power of negative x outside because this contains x, okay? And this one is x. So the remaining is e raised to the power of negative xy. So this one is outside, is here. We copy this. This is for the x, okay? That is from 3 to positive infinity. And now I'm going to integrate the one with y, that's e raised to the power of negative xy. So it's gonna be 1 over negative x times the whole thing, e raised to the power of negative xy, and the remaining is dx. dy is cancelled because we have integrated the one with y. Okay, so before we proceed to the last integral, this one, let's first evaluate. Okay, we're going to evaluate this. We have 1 over negative x e raised to the power of negative xy from 3 to infinity. And the answer we're going to multiply with this one outside. Okay, so we replace the y with infinity. That is negative x times infinity. So x is any value. Negative infinity is the exponent of e. is going to be 0. Okay? And minus, this is always minus in the middle, the lower limit, 1 over negative x times e raised to the power of negative x times 3 here. That is our y. So this is 0, and this is minus negative. It becomes plus. Okay? So 1 over x, e raised to the power of negative 3x. That's negative x times 3. So we cancel the 0. This is the remaining. And we multiply by the outside. So x times e raised to the power of negative x times these. X is canceled, and this becomes e raised to the power of negative 4x. And this answer we have to put here. So this is the remaining, the last integral on the left, and dx. So it means we have to integrate this using again the formula. This is going to be e raised to the power of negative 4x over negative 4, because 1 over k, our k is negative 4 and everything, and it is from 3 to positive infinity. So this is negative 1/4 here, and we change this to infinity. So e negative 4 times infinity over negative 4 minus, we have e raised to the power of negative 4 times 3, the lower limit, over negative 4. Again, here we have e raised to the power of negative 4 times infinity. So it's e raised to the power of negative infinity is going to be 0 over negative 4 is 0. 0, and this becomes plus here because we have minus and negative. That is 1/4 times e raised to the power of negative 12. So the answer is 1/4 times e raised to the power of negative 12. Okay, so we have the values already. Using the formula, we have x greater than 3. That is e raised to the power of negative 3. So here I'm going to write the answer. Let me change the color. All right. So let's now replace this with the values. This one is e raised to the power of negative 3. Thus the p of x greater than 3 plus p of y greater than 3 is 1/4, and minus the p of x greater than 3 and y greater than 3, that is 1/4 times e raised to the power of negative 12. So here we have 1/4 times e raised to the power of negative 12. So let's calculate this. Okay, shift ln negative 3. It's 0.049 plus 0.25. Okay, and then this one minus the 0.25, 1/4 times shift ln negative 12. So the answer is 0.29978 or 29.978%. So please check this in your calculator. This is how to answer this. We use this formula, P of A or B. So that's equal to P of A plus P of B minus the intersection. And first we calculated the P of x greater than 3. That is here. And then y greater than 3. And then the intersection. Then we combine all. We added both minus the intersection. So the answer is 0.29978. So please watch again the steps Okay, you can rewind this, you can forward, and you can pause to